I think the key to life is knowing who you're not. That is so important because you might wake up 10 years later and be like, I am not a farmer, but here I am with a whole farm. I'm Atsuko Okatsuka, and I'm a comedian. In what aspect of your life do you feel not good enough? When is the first time you remember feeling that way? I think I'm kind of finding that I'm more of a perfectionist than I thought. I used to be like, oh, I'm so chill, and I am. But for me, it's always about like knowing that there's always improvement. I watch back every show that I do. I'm looking at my movements. I'm seeing if I have started doing the joke slower or faster, or if I'm even enunciating a word weirder. I'm always thinking there's room for improvement, especially with craft. But then feeling not good enough as a person in general, the first time I felt that, I think I've felt that multiple times in my life. I had a unique upbringing where I wasn't just an immigrant. Like my mom has schizophrenia, and then my dad, who had full custody of me, my grandma lied to, my grandma kidnapped me from him. There were other things that made me feel like I was a bit of a freak. And that kind of just repeats itself throughout life, I feel like, in different ways. For example, like when I first came to the States and I was still learning English, I remember I was playing with like these two girls, and there was another person that came and like wanted to play with us. And I said, yeah, you can play with we. And then the two girls started laughing because they were like, haha, you mean us? I remember kind of shutting down a little bit because I was like, oh, I don't even know what the correct thing is. I just know I'm wrong, and I don't know how to fix it. And that's kind of scary, feeling stuck. Thinking back, maybe that's where, wanting things to be perfect. The way I present myself to people, even as a performer, I think maybe that does come from that. Where it's like, I don't want to feel that way again. I think about this all the time with immigrant comedians. I'm not funny in Japanese or Mandarin. I got funny in the language that I struggled at the most and that I desperately wanted to try to connect with people the most. Yeah, I think about it all the time. Yeah. Who are you still trying to please? I am a big people pleaser. I think a lot of comedians are, but I'm a huge people pleaser. My mom was really unpredictable growing up, so I was always like, does this make you happy? Should I go away? Does that make you happy? Do you want me to listen to you talk? Does that make you happy? Should I talk? Does that make you happy? Because of that, I don't ever want people to feel disappointed. So I always say yes. And then, when I can't deliver, right, it's actually a bigger disappointment to the people than if I just said no in the first place. And so that's something I've had to learn. You can take time. Don't answer anything based on emotion. Feel the emotion. Oh, I feel bad if I say no. Oh, I feel guilty. I feel guilty if I say no. Let that feeling pass and then answer. Because then you've already played out the guilty part. You've already felt the guilty part in your body. And then after you took a few deep breaths, took a little walk, it'll be easier to say no or respond after that. Where has pain served a purpose in your life? My dad and I were separated for many years, after my grandma brought me to the States kind of abruptly without telling us. We reconnected, but then we never really talked about what happened, right? How it made us feel. How were you feeling at the time? What were you going through? What was I going through? We never talked about it. And then Ira Glass from This American Life was like, do you want to do an episode about this possible kidnapping that your grandma did on you? And I was like, yeah, because for me, and it's a sick thing, but sometimes it takes a project for you to go, okay, I'm gonna face that pain. I'm gonna face that fear. And I'll do it for the public. Confronting it was painful, and it was really, really sad, because there were chunks of stories missing that I just had filled it in with my head.
Right now, I'm almost about to cry a little. So basically, your grandma told me in a letter that you are really missing me. And that's when I think I knew you were in America.
It was very sad to hear how devastated my dad was, how lonely he was, how much he missed me, how he tried to see me again, things like this that I didn't know. It was good because it also, I think, healed a hole. It's sad, but it's good. And we can continue to love each other and really have a great relationship from now on. What need inside yourself have you been neglecting? When did you start neglecting it, and why? I constantly struggle with trying to figure out if it's a need that I truly need for myself, or if it's a need I see other people needing for them, so I try to copy them. You hike? Oh, maybe I'm a hiker too. Oh, you see a therapist? Maybe I should see one. It still goes back to trying to fit in, I think, and feeling like belonging. Strangely, I started feeling like I finally belong, or I have a community, when I became more known as a comedian. I started sharing my feelings more with the people. My family raised me on mind tricks, these mind tricks, and if you're an immigrant or children of immigrants, you might be able to relate. I had been doing comedy already, but I never even talked about my mom's schizophrenia. I didn't know how. I truly wish schizophrenia had a more approachable name, something like Splash Mountain, You do all these things, you tiptoe around. You're afraid to be the thing that you actually are, because if you're not accepted for who you actually are, then shoot, it's that's all you had. So sometimes you arrive at that last. It's weird that I had to open myself up so much. I found comedy, I became an entertainer to be able to finally feel like I belong.